Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. To become an A-lister, just hit that notification bell. Make sure your settings are set to all so that you know the second that I upload a new video. If you like what you see here, please consider rating this video. Leave me a comment down below. Share this video with your friends and family. And yeah, let's get into the video. So today I'm having some spicy noodles. These are the Stew Type Noodles, so it's got a little bit of the broth. I added a little bit of cheese on top, just like Colby Jack cheese. And then over here I have chicken and vegetable pot stickers that I cooked in the air fryer. And they're the BB Go brand, I believe. I got them from Costco. And then I have some cucumbers. And I have some sweet chili sauce in case I want it for the pot stickers, because I don't think there's a lot of broth. Today I am doing a true crime, so we're going to eat a little bit, take a few bites, and then we'll start talking true crime. Now, this is still pretty hot. I cooked it and then I got ready just to have, so it could have time to cool down. So I don't think I have the right kind of chopsticks for this because they just like slide. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, the noodles absorbed all of the liquid. Not all of it. I still have some left in the pan, but I didn't want it to be like splatter everywhere. I tried, guys. I'm just going to use a fork. And I brought this spoon in case I wanted to slurp up the broth, but there's not a lot. This is really good. It's been a while since I've had spicy noodles. So I think I am going to use this. I sprayed these with a little bit of oil so they would get crispy. I love cucumber. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to go get some more broth for this. Alright, so I added some more broth, and then I grabbed the wrapper so I can show you guys which one it is in case you want to look for it or order. I think you can order these online too. I'm not quite sure. I usually just get them whenever I see them at my Asian market. So, yeah. Let me get a napkin, and I'm drinking just water. Alright. So, today's true crime is the case of Travis Alexander. He was a 30-year-old businessman. So he grew up in Riverside, California. And this was back in 2008. So he grew up in Riverside, California. He has 8 brothers, well, 7 siblings. And he grew up in a very abusive and neglectful environment. His parents were both addicts, and they would go on these binges and leave the kids home without food for days on end. His parents would just be passed out on the couch and just neglect the kids. And you can imagine a house full of 8 kids, you know, how rowdy it can be, and especially if they're needing attention and food. So at the age of 10, Travis's grandmother took all of the kids in. Bless her heart. She was a very religious woman. She practiced the Mormon faith. And she also taught her grandkids the same. So they grew up in a very religious environment. And they were a family of faith. So at the age of 18, Travis graduated from high school, and he decided to go on his own, on a mission to share the gospel and teach people about Jesus Christ. And he did that out in Denver, Colorado. He did that for 2 years. After 2 years, he moved back to California. And he got into this multi-level marketing company called Prepaid Legal Services. And basically you go out and you recruit people, you know, you pitch them. It's like a salesperson. And you pitch them this idea of, I'm not sure what exactly they sold or anything, but you basically recruit other people to do the same thing and achieve their dreams. And that's what he did. And the group that he was in, there was a lot of Mormons. It was very popular amongst the Mormon community because they were used to that. They were used to going out and talking to strangers. Only this time it wasn't for Jesus Christ. It was for a business. He did very well for himself. He became very popular, very successful in the business. So popular, he got so much success, he became a motivational speaker and would give conferences and go to all these meetings and paid for expenses on travel. And his speeches became famous within the Prepaid Legal Services group. He made a lot of friends, met a lot of new people, and the majority of them were of the Mormon faith. And, you know, they're pretty strict on their rules. They have, it's called the law of chastity, so you're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage. And so that's ultimately what Travis wanted. You know, he was this handsome, successful, young bachelor, but he kind of struggled with wanting to, or being this person of faith who's very successful and then wanting to be young and go on dates, you know. And he was a very sexual person. In 2004, he ended up moving to Mesa, Arizona, which they have one of the biggest Mormon churches and the biggest Mormon community outside of Salt Lake City. So a lot of his friends were from Salt Lake City, Utah, and he would go and hang out with his friends, and they'd like go hunting and stuff like that, you know, stuff that boys do. And well, I mean, girls do that too, but you know, that's the type of stuff that they would do. They would ski. And so he moved to Mesa, Arizona, and he moved into this beautiful 5-bedroom home. He did have roommates though, But he continued to be very successful. He drove a BMW. You know, on the outside, people look at him and they see this young, handsome businessman who's very successful and he's going to do big things in life, you know. He's giving speeches all around the country and motivating other people to go out and achieve their dreams, you know. Which is what he did and what he's still continuing to do. In 2006, he met a girl named Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who she is. So, Jodi Arias, she was 27 years old. She was born in Salinas, California. Her dad was Mexican and her mom was German and white, I believe, or American. I forget. But Jodi Arias was a very intelligent woman. Very smart. But at the age of 14, she started to rebel. Her parents had caught her growing pot in her room at the age of 14. And so they started to be more strict on her, started keeping their eye on her more. And so Jodi felt as if she like didn't have enough privacy and she started to rebel even more. Even though she was very intelligent, she didn't graduate high school. She dropped out in her junior year and she ended up moving in with with a boyfriend who was like twice her age. I'm not sure exactly how old he was. We don't have pictures of him, but it's said that he's very handsome. But she ended up moving in with him. And Jodi was known to always have a boyfriend. She always would jump from relationship to relationship. And so in 2006, she also joined prepaid legal services. And she was presented with this trip to Vegas where, you know, all her expenses were going to be paid. And at that conference, Travis was speaking. Travis was very popular. You know, at the end of his speeches, people would go up and greet him. He had all these friends. You know, he was very well known within that community, that business. And so her friends knew Travis and they introduced each other. And they instantly had a connection. They talked all night. They just got along really well and they were both two very attractive young people. Oh, so good. So, they get back home from the trip and they still continue to talk back and forth. They're emailing, they're texting, they're calling each other. And Jodi still lives with her boyfriend, so she's essentially cheating on her boyfriend. So they're talking and talking, you know, communicating back and forth. Jodi's in California and Travis is in Arizona. And so eventually they started meeting up with each other. They would each drive halfway. One of Travis's friends lived about halfway. So they would meet at Travis's friend's house. They would meet at Travis's friend's house. And After a few times of meeting up, their relationship became intimate. And Jody was still living with her boyfriend. Now at this point, Jody and Travis are not like officially a couple. They don't officially become a couple until February 2007. And once they officially become a couple, Travis's friends noticed a change in areas and Jody. She became more possessive and showed public displays of affection, like very inappropriately or at inappropriate times. She would get jealous when other girls would talk with Travis. It was just very inappropriate. Now remember, a lot of Travis's friends were of the Mormon faith. And pretty much all of his friends were already married and some of them had kids. And Travis was like the bachelor of the friend group. So they thought when Jody and Travis got together, you know, that she was going to be the girl, because originally they really liked her. You know, and 2 months after their relationship, Jody ends up converting to become Mormon. And she does this because she knows that Travis is a man of faith. His ultimate goal was to find a Mormon wife and basically settle down and have kids. So Jody knew that in order to keep him, she needed to become Mormon. So that's what she did. And she had Travis be the one to baptize him. Baptize her. Travis took this as like an honor, you know. But their relationship started to become very rocky. Jody, remember, she was like possessive. She started like hacking into his email and reading his emails. And so they eventually broke up. They had a very tumultuous relationship, but it was also intimate. And some people think that Travis lost his virginity to Jody, and that's probably why he had like he kept going back to her, or kept her in his life. But Jody was doing some strange things. Jody ended up moving to Arizona after they had broken up. Travis thought it was weird, like, you don't know anybody out here, the only person you know is me. And Jody just said, you know, oh, well, I've always wanted to live in Mesa. I thought I told you. She was just doing some sketchy stuff. Travis started talking to another girl. I think they were actually dating. And that girl somehow got an email. She got an email from somebody, an unknown person, basically calling her a whore and not to be in his bed and blah, blah, blah. And that person most likely was Jody. And Travis had come out to all 4 of his tires being slashed. Not just one, all 4. You know, that takes some time. Jody even snuck through a doggy door into Travis's house, got in bed with him, and, you know, of course they ended up having sex, and all of these things were like red flags. He even caught Jody sneaking outside the bushes, like stalking him, and when he confronted her, she said, "Oh, I left something here, I dropped something here." She made some excuse. And he just, like, all these things were red flags, but he never, like, he just believed her. And Jody would always use her body and their sexual relationship as a way to, like, get out of it, because Travis would just, like, somehow, you know, they'd have intercourse and then Travis would forget, like, what had just happened, you know? She was bewitching him. Jody eventually ends up moving back to California, and she moves in with her grandparents. She still is continuing to keep in touch with Travis. And she knows that there's this conference that they're supposed to go to Cancun. And she knows that Travis has a +1. They weren't dating at the time. So she was asking Travis, you know, who are you taking to Cancun with you? And he tried to play it off like he was taking this girl. Her name was Mimi. And he tried to play it off like he was doing a favor to one of his friends who needed a babysitter because they were taking their kids. So his +1 was the babysitter for one of his friends, when in actuality it was a girl from the Mormon church who he had had a crush on for a while. And I guess they had gone on a date, Travis and Mimi, and Mimi basically decided that she just wanted to be friends with him. She didn't want to have a relationship with him. So that's who he was taking. So all of Travis's friends and business partners or colleagues or whatever you would call them, they're in Cancun. Travis never shows up. They're supposed to have a business call. He doesn't show up for that. It was June 9th. And so his friends are starting to worry because it's not like Travis to not show up to a business call. So the girl that was supposed to go to Cancun with him goes to Travis's house. She knocks on the door. Nobody answers. She then calls some of her friends and some of Travis's friends who happen to know the passcode to get in through the garage. So they show up. There's still no sign of anything. No movement or anything inside the house. So they go in through the garage. And immediately they notice this like weird smell. They go to Travis's door and they knock and they're like, "Travis, are you in there?" Nothing. Nobody answers. It's quiet. His door is locked. And then that's when they go to his roommate's room. Now his roommate was with his girlfriend and he didn't hear anybody trying to knock on the door. Remember, this is a pretty big house. I don't know if there was a doorbell or what, but he didn't hear. He didn't know anybody was inside the house. So the roommate went and got the spare key to Travis's room. So they unlock Travis's room and they open the door, and that's when the smell was worse. It immediately hit them. The one roommate walks into the room, blood all over the place, turns the corner, walks into the bathroom. Even more blood. There's a palm print on the hallway wall. Walk into the bathroom, and in the shower stall they find Travis slumped over in a pool of blood, just tons of blood everywhere. And he runs out, and they immediately call 911. So the friends call 911, and they're asking, you know, is he still breathing? Where is the blood coming from? And it's like everywhere. They can't tell one point. And then the operator goes, do you know who would have wanted to do this to him? And that's when they say yes, his ex-girlfriend, right away. Mimi forgot what her name was, but she had to ask one of the friends, and they said Jody Arias. Detectives come out, forensics come out. They find that he has been stabbed 27 times. His neck was slit ear to ear, deep, almost decapitated. And then he was shot right above the eyebrow with a .23 caliber. I could be wrong, I don't know. Detectives get to work right away. They question his roommates because how could they live in a house with that smell and not know, you know, where it's coming from? And they say, oh, you know, it's like a bachelor pad. It could be dirty dishes, it could be the garbage. You know, we didn't really think anything of it. And it was a pretty big house. It's not like they were in some small apartment where the rooms are right next to each other, you know. So detectives are still doing their work. At the crime scene, they also found that the sheets were torn off the bed. And downstairs in the washing machine, they found a camera. And it's like a big DSLR camera. It's not like a small little point and shoot. So they said whoever put it in there was most likely trying to destroy evidence. So they take it out, and they're hoping that, you know, they can get some evidence or something, you know? Because why would a camera just be chilling in the washer, you know? So the camera did have water damage, and there was an SD card in it. And so they try and get the images from that camera. Now, you know, this is shock going throughout the Mormon community. All of his friends, you know, they're just saddened as to why somebody would want to do this, and in such a horrific way. So during the investigation, Jody herself reaches out to the lead detective in the case, and, you know, she's basically just seeing if she can offer any assistance. And she heard about Travis's death. She was a really good friend of his. She just wanted to offer her assistance. Well, shortly after that, the photos, they were able to recover the photos from the camera, and what they find is shocking. They find intimate pictures of her and Travis on the day of June 4th, 2008. And this is 5 days before his body was found. They were intimate pictures. Both were naked. One was her fully unclothed. Photos of him in the shower right before his death. And so they think what happened was she caught him in most vulnerable state, in most vulnerable place, in the shower, nude, you know, his back turned towards her, and that was her time to kill him in the shower. And there was also one picture, I think it was the very last picture. There was a picture of the killer's foot, so it had her pant leg and the foot, and then his dead body with blood. And that was very incriminating evidence. So as soon as detectives got those pictures back, they called Jodi Arias, brought her in for an investigation, a formal investigation. And she denies the fact of ever being in Arizona. She was in California the whole time. She was supposed to go to she was supposed to go meet with somebody in Utah, which she did. But then she went back to California. She never went through Arizona. This is what she told detectives. Well, then detectives brought her the evidence. Her palm print was the one that was found in the hallway. Her blood was mixed with Travis's blood. And then there was the incriminating photos. And Jodi was just she had an answer for everything. Remember, she was very intelligent. It's like she knew what to say, had an excuse for everything. And she was very odd. So once the detective told her that they had photo evidence that she was there, she just kind of like played it off like, oh yeah, that does look like me. She just kind of plays this like almost like flirtatious, like, you know, she's just one of those types of girls that uses her body and also her intelligence to kind of get what she wants or get out of things, you know. So at the end of the interrogation, she is officially charged with Travis's murder. And as soon as the detective leaves the interrogation room, she starts singing. She was barefoot. I don't know if that's normal, but she was barefoot. And she does a handstand, just very weird behavior. And it's not the way somebody would act after you're being accused of murder, you know? Like, I don't know. You never know how you're going to act in that situation. But I know the way that she acted was not normal. So, I believe it was the next day or a couple days later, they bring her in for another interrogation. And then that's when her story changes. So first, they try to bring in a female detective to interrogate her. And she is not having it. She's not opening up to this woman. And so then they bring back the first detective because he was able to talk to her. So that's when detectives realize that she communicates better with men than she does female. So they bring in the first detective. And that's when she opens up to him. And then she starts crying and says that her story basically changes. That yes, she was there, but 2 other people came in and killed him. And they were going to kill her, but she said she wasn't going to say anything, and that's why they weren't even there for her, so they let her go. And the detective wasn't having it. He's like, no way, Jose. You know? She said that they had ski masks on, and I don't even know. But the detective wasn't having it. Now, Jodi, she would schedule interviews. She would schedule interviews. She liked the fame. She would schedule an interview any chance she got. You can see them on YouTube. This case became so well known. It was widely broadcast throughout the nation. Everybody knew. So they knew it was going to be hard to find a jury that was non-biased, but eventually they do, and they go to trial. In 2013, they go to trial. People would show up by the masses. People bought plane tickets just to try to get a chance to be in the courtroom. This was, she's not even a celebrity, but she somehow became a celebrity. And I think it's because of the fact that she looked like this beautiful, innocent girl. And how could this beautiful, innocent girl have done this horrific crime? So they go to trial. The trial lasts forever. One thing that's memorable about this trial that rarely ever happens is that Jodi took the stand. On the stand, being questioned during her trial for the murder of Travis for 18 straight days. Which was like a shocker, because that like never happens. And for every question she was asked, she had an answer for everything, a reasonable explanation. But the sad thing is that during her trial, she changed her story again. So when she got her lawyer, the lawyer was like, look, you did it, now we need to give them a reason why you did it. So her claim was self-defense. And she claimed that she was in a domestic abuse with Travis. It was a very sexual, explicit thing. She even accused him of being, I'll have to block this out, but she accused him of being she even recorded one of their conversations, which was pretty much a verbal sex tape. Basically, her story changed, was that she was in a domestic abusive relationship, and she said that she didn't want to put Travis in that sort of light, but that's what really happened. And at the end of the day, the jury came back and found her guilty of murder. That was not what Jodi was hoping. But once the verdict came back, you can tell on Jodi Arias's face that she was totally not expecting them to come back with a guilty verdict. She was expecting to get like guilty self-defense, but she got murder in the first degree, which was premeditated. So in order to get premeditated, they had to prove that she planned to murder him. And the evidence was there. So remember how Jodi moved back in with her grandparents? About a week before the murder, her grandparents had a break-in and nothing was stolen except for a gun, which was the same caliber used to shoot Travis. So there's that. Jodi was questioned during the burglary and she didn't know anything about it, but it just seemed to be a coincidence. Now, the gun was never found. The actual gun that was used to kill Travis was never found. Her grandparents' gun was never found. So we can only assume that it was the same gun, and that the reason why it was staged as a burglary for Jodi to take the gun is because she didn't want it to come back to her that she's the one that took the gun, so she needed to make it look like a burglary. Another thing is that when Jodi made her trip from California to Utah with her friend that she was supposed to be meeting, she ended up going through Arizona, but they had to prove that. Jodi kept all of her gas receipts and everything from her trip. None of those gas receipts were from Arizona, but the detective was able to find that her ex-boyfriend, the one that she used to live with, they questioned him, and he told them that Jodi had asked to borrow some gas cans. And so the detective was like, why would she need gas cans? And he gave her 2 of them. Her ex-boyfriend gave her 2 of them. And the reason why she needed the gas cans was to make the trip through Arizona without being caught at a gas station on camera, without having the receipt or have it on her bank statements that she was ever in Arizona. So she needed those gas cans. And that gave her premeditation. She had pre-planned this trip. She thought of every single thing before she actually went. So she was found guilty on first-degree murder. And then, so the jury had to come to that verdict. Well, then the jury meets again and they have to agree upon a sentencing. And so they're trying to figure out whether she gets life or death. The jury comes back and they are deadlocked. So, which means they couldn't come to an agreement, and the agreement has to be unanimous. So the jury comes back deadlocked, and the judge declares a mistrial. So they have to go through the trial again, and then they have a different jury. She's been found already guilty of first-degree murder. So the jury has to come back with the sentencing. And again, they come back deadlocked. I believe it was 11-1. And so for the death penalty in the state of Arizona, you can only have it tried, the sentencing tried twice for the death penalty. After that, it has to be done by the judge. The judge is the one responsible for providing the sentencing, and she decides to give her life in prison, natural life in prison, because sometimes it's 25 years to life. This is her natural life without the possibility of parole. So Jodi Arias was sentenced to natural life in prison without parole. She will never be getting out. There's so much other information to this case. Like, this was all over the news. She's done multiple interviews. She's ultimately she was just this very jealous girl. She wanted Travis all to herself, and when she couldn't have him, she killed him. And it's just so sad. She is one of the most hated women in this country. And I'm so glad that she will never be able to get out of prison, because she's very narcissistic. She cares about herself, and she'll do whatever it takes to get what she wants. She just comes off to me as that type of person, even if it means murder. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed. There's a lot of information that there's so many details that I just don't have time to go into. And if you guys want to share those details, if you know about this case, go ahead and leave them down below so other people can read about them too. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon in a brand new video. Bye!